Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to AVEVA World 2026 in beautiful Milan. Um, Welcome to another episode of Partner Talk. I am here with our partner Zev Arnold from Accenture. Uh, my name is Harpreet Gulati. I head the PI business and I've been with AVEVA for a long time. So Zev, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. So first, thanks Harpreet for inviting me out here, for hosting this beautiful event in this beautiful city. It's really been wonderful. So I'm Zev Arnold. I'm a principal director with Accenture. I've spent my career working with the practitioners of the fourth industrial revolution, turning data into value. I've done that my whole career. And the way it started, I was working as a PI systems integrator in an oil and gas company. We were doing, it was offshore production. And my job at that time, the way I viewed it is I'm here to support the system, right? The users do what they do with the data. I'm just here to make sure the system stays running and the data is there the way it's supposed to be. And then one day, this rotating equipment engineer walked in my office and he said, Zev, I'm working with this spreadsheet. I really need to understand the number of compressor starts over a period of time so that I can optimize our maintenance. And I was like, well, that's easy. You just do this data link format and you look at the rotation speed of the compressor and you turn it into a formula and then you have your answer and you just calculate it in the cell and there you go. Here's your spreadsheet to calculate compressor starts. And it changed the way they did maintenance. And I got hooked because it was so easy to have such a big impact in value in operations and engineering. And from that point forward, my career has been looking for that value, trying to help engineers and operators get it, and just embedding with them to change ways of working. It's been a really exciting career.
Wonderful. And speaking about value, perfect start, right? So how have you been helping clients get value out of the PI system?
Sure. So I'll pick energy infrastructure companies to start with. The way I like to think about value levers. And I'll start by just talking about some of the constraints that our customers are working under.
Uh-huh.
Like three of my favorites. We're facing growing demand across the board. I think all of your customers are facing this, and certainly my clients who are in energy infrastructure companies are facing growing demand driven by data centers, which pulls additional electricity off the grid, drives demand for additional power generation, which drives demand for additional gas. I mean, it's a pull through across the entire energy sector. It's huge and growing and amazing. So that's pressure number one. I'd say pressure number two is we don't live in the era of cheap capital anymore. We got so used to that in the 2010s.
Yep.
But I think it's harder now for companies to raise money for capital projects than it ever has been. And every dollar is competing against shareholder returns, is competing against operational investments. And so there's these real constraints. And then I'd say the third piece to this is that internally, I think companies are facing a lot of pressure to show productivity gains from the investments we've made in digitalization over the last decade and a half. Because frankly, those investments haven't materialized in the productivity gains that we've come to expect. And so you look at all these pressures and it drives a need to create operational value with data, probably more than ever before, because every dollar of value we create with operational value, we can then turn into growth, right? It replaces capital. And then it also goes back to show the returns from the earlier investments we made. When I look at those value levers, I tend to think about it in 5 different ways. There are 5 different value levers: asset reliability, process performance, operational risk reduction, commercial optimization, and capital project efficiency. And if you hit those 5 things, that's essentially where your operational value is going to come from, especially in energy infrastructure. And so that's always the focus on delivering value. And the PI system plays a huge role in that because that's our enterprise data source for operational technology data. It's foundational for all of that. And if you look at really where industry has been across those 5 value levers, they're playing on the edges. They're playing around with, they're getting value out of IT data, right? They're not really incorporating OT data the way they could. Most of the industry, and what I love about AVEVA World is I come here and I see the exceptions. I see the highlights and the folks who are doing outstanding work and driving forward in a way that other companies in the industry are frankly just aspirationally talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, speaking of, I'll build on aspiration, right? Obviously, the biggest thing that is happening in the industry right now is AI. What do you think is the relevance of Pi, and how does Pi fit into this AI area, in your opinion?
I think AI is probably just a fad that's going to go away. No. We're not recording this, are we?
No.
Especially, so chat was released back in 2022. 2023, I came to AVEVA World with our very first AI large language model driven asset that we built on top of Pi for Accenture. I presented that in San Francisco at AVEVA World. And it was neat, right? It was a fun little toy, and you showed it, and it's like, wow, what a cool thing we can do now. But the whole world has changed just in the last year, because all of a sudden these models are so good. They're so good at inference. They're able to create these amazing insights. I use Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, every single day in my job nowadays. I use it to emails, presentations, proposals, thought leadership, everything I'm doing. I'm using AI to help me go back over my catalog of work over time and help me understand it. And I think in the same way, industrial companies, your customers and my clients will start using AI to understand operational technology data with that same level of depth and with that same speed or velocity of insight. It's going to unlock so many things. One of the biggest challenges for end users in adoption of Pi system, what I've seen as we've rolled out Pi at large enterprises, is that even as easy to use as Pi Vision is, even as easy to use as Pi Data Link is, there is still a learning curve.
Absolutely.
And if you're I had this challenge from a plant manager once. He was operations manager at a coal power plant, an amazing guy. I walked into his office. He had a dashboard up with, here's all the alarms that happened in the last 12, like he had built his own analytics, his own spreadsheet to show him how to manage his job. But what he told me is, this needs to be easy enough for a pipe fitter to do it. And if you think about a pipe fitter, they're not spending all day in front of a laptop. They're very rarely there. So how do you make that data so available that I don't need to learn a tool in order to use it? And that's the gap that AI fills, at least as we get started. It's an amazing conduit.
It's the democratization of data, basically.
It's the democratization of AI. And the role the Pi system plays is in creating an operational technology data platform for the enterprise, right? With semantic models, organized, so that data has meaning. And there's no other tool, there's no other platform on the market I've seen that's quite as effective as doing that, or certainly as ubiquitous as the AVEVA Pi system. And so, to answer your question, Pi has never been more relevant than it is today. Managing Pi at an enterprise level, not just like I started out as an application developer or application support, like you need to understand the pull through all the way to the business, the value from the data. And that's how you supercharge AI in industrial AI.
Completely agree. And as you are aware, Zev, we have at AVEVA World, we have announced that we have an AI server inside Pi Vision. I'm not sure you got a chance to take a look at it or not, but I encourage you guys to go take a look at it.
I'm very, very excited about that.
So,
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. So, based on your experience, what do you think good looks like? What is a good implementation and rollout of Pi?
Sure.
And how does it differentiate where people are not able to get as much value?
Sure. One of my favorite things to do, when I'm working a strategy or assessment with a new client, I get a room full of operators and engineers. We're doing like value discovery work, right? Upfront assessment work. And I ask the question, how many folks here know how to find the data they're looking for? And I very rarely get lots of hands on that one. And then I ask, how many people even know what data is available that they might be interested in? And almost no hands, right? What good looks like, first and foremost, is you walk into a room of operators and engineers, they know what data is available and they know how to go get it. That's good.
Yep.
And that's what we should aspire to, even pre-AI days. That is the metric that I use when I gauge, a mature organization with a mature deployment of Pi at enterprise scale.
Absolutely.
Everybody can find the data they're looking for, and they know they know where it is. As we get beyond that, to how do you use data to drive value? I was here today co-presenting with TC Energy on the work, their 15-year journey. We're working with them right now on deploying their solution onto Connect, which is very exciting. But you look at this team, and what they've done is they've invested in explain and sustain over train. I want to explain that just for a second.
Great way to say it. Yes, go ahead.
When we approach analytics or AI projects or digital manufacturing, there is a tendency in industry to start with data and dashboards and analytics instead of people and relationships and ways of working. And I think it's completely backwards. We invest in training models, but we don't invest in how do we explain the output of that model to operators or to plant managers or even to executives so that they understand the decisions they need to change. And how do we sustain the data infrastructure underneath it so that these models don't degrade over time? What TC Energy did right is they invested in explain and sustain. And I'd encourage you to watch the presentation if you missed it. Richard Stinson does an amazing job walking through what he calls his collaborative philosophy, his advisor role for his team to put sustain and explain into practice. I think what Pi enables, and the reason that they built their solution on Pi, is that there's the ability to create a semantic model, put Pi Asset Framework in front of an end user, so that they can create and manage their own semantic model. As a reliability engineer, a compressor engineer, or even a field operator, I can organize the data the way I need to organize it, and I'm not trying to communicate that to like a data modeler or a data scientist. Those are the wrong people to build semantic models in this context. It's one of the key differences between industrial AI and AI as we look to corporate functions or IT data.
Yep. Last question for you, Zev.
Sure.
You are here at AVEVA World.
I am.
If you could describe your feeling at AVEVA World in one word, what would that be?
Big. I have always used the size of this conference to judge the health of the PI system in the market. I went to Paris 2 years ago and I was shocked. This year we're even bigger.
Absolutely.
AVEVA is a healthy and growing company, and it's just so exciting to see how many of your customers are excited about digital manufacturing and industrial AI and operational technology data. It's big.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you so much,
Harpreet.
Harpreet.
All right. Take care.